Okay, I am doing another time-lapse model build of the LED Mirage with flame launcher. This is a 1998 model, I found out later on, and I don't know where I picked it up at, probably at a convention a long time ago, because the cover art was absolutely fantastic, and I had I guess you would call a fascination to build a Japanese mech type suit of armor. Well, I got this box home, opened it up, and, well, needless to say, I was clearly intimidated by the number of part trees and, well, specifically the number of parts alone. It has outstanding detail. The other thing was, it needed to be painted. Unlike some of the other models you can get from the Gundam series, they actually come with pre-painted parts. No, actually they're not pre-painted. They're actually molded in color parts. But I found out also later that a lot of them do come unpainted, so once again, major intimidation factor. I'm a terrible painter because, well, I am the amateur model builder. And you figure, as old as I am, I would be better at building models. But if you don't do it starting out at a young age, or you just don't have a super drive for exquisite detail, then you will always be an amateur. This is the case in what I do. So I finally pulled this model out a few days ago. And when I mean days, I mean it took a while to build. At some point in here, the speed of this time-lapse build is going to get extremely fast because it took so long to build this. Even under time-lapse conditions, this video would have been over 40 minutes long. I did not realize it had went that far, but it did. I was absolutely astounded. So I went in, I cut out a big detail section because, well, not detail, decal section, because it didn't need to be in there, and it was like 3 minutes long, so no point in leaving it. The other parts I went in and edited to a high speed factor to cut down the time considerably. That's really the best I could do as far as editing goes. I could have cut out a lot of it, but I wanted to see the intricacy of putting this model together. You have to do it in so many phases. One was starting out with the arms, the legs, the torso, the hip, the waist, as they call it. Hey, look, I just finished the legs. I particularly like the fact that they call the shield on this the veil, which is kind of interesting. I also did something in this model that I don't normally do with car builds, is that I kind of painted as I went with each section, because unlike car models, a lot of this kind of had to be painted after you put it together to make it look good. I'm sorry, I didn't leave out all the decal section, but this was a very short section because it took a very short amount of time to put these on. The other thing I found out was the fact that, well, there were no English instructions with this model at all. So it was straight up diagram and numbers. Another interesting thing I found out is their boxes on the page are not numbered. So you have to be extremely careful the way you're reading the instructions as to the order that you're putting it together in, because they're separating lines on the instructions pamphlet they're very faint, so you've got to really take notice of those. So at some point in here, I started having to skip around a little bit because I was having to wait for paint or glue to dry, so I would just move on to the next section and start the build there, and then go back to the previous sections to finish what I needed to. As you can see from there, I'm working on, I think that is the torso. Finished the legs to a degree, finished the arms to a degree. Now, I have looked up a lot of images of this model because I wanted to get some idea of how it was going to be painted. It does come with a color, as you can see there. It is I think they call it kind of a duck egg pale blue, which was fine by me because on the box it shows it as white. And due to the amount of paint and time it would have required me to actually paint every piece of this uniformly to make it look, I guess, good, would have extended my build time considerably, because there are so many parts to the armor, to just, well, everything. Freaking detail in this thing is just unbelievable. The one thing I did want to do is do up as much of the external detail as possible, which required me reading up on the proper way to do a wash. Now, being the amateur model that I am, I don't have a lot of those chemicals. I do have one chemical that I use at my table there considerably. I also use it to heat my house. Kerosene. Kerosene does act as a good wash. I was taking it and placing it into a small paint cap of some of my paint had actually dried up there, so I had plenty of paint caps to use this for. Diluting it down to what I thought was a good wash solution, and then taking a fine tip brush and dipping it into those cracks and letting it, I love that word, capillary effect take place, and then letting it dry overnight, then come back with a paper towel slightly dampened with a little dab of kerosene on it, and then able to slowly wipe off the excess and leave the detail in the cracks for visual effect. That actually turned out pretty decent. So then my next thing was, how was I going to actually make this look when I'm done with it? First of all, I could have went almost with a pristine look. It actually turned out fairly decent as almost a pristine model, but it's a battle mech, so that didn't seem quite right to me. So I decided to go with the battlefield look. He's been walking across the battlefield, he's taken fire, he's given fire in return. It is a battle mech, so I battled it up. Uh-oh, there you go. You can see I have just upped the speed on a time-lapse video. And when you do that, it definitely looks weird. Because, well, you've just upped the speed on a time-lapse video. So it's just not quite as smooth as it was. So I have finished the waist section there. I have painted the the armor plates around the waist section, and now I'm putting something else together there. What the heck am I doing? It's kind of hard to tell looking at it like this. Might be working on the head. Oh, that was another wonderful thing I found out about this. It came with 2 different heads. I thought, why does it come with 2 different heads? I can't read the instructions, so I'm only guessing. Eventually, later on in the build, I found out why it comes with 2 different heads. Because there are 2 ways to display this model. One is without the flame launcher. Well, actually, you can have him hold the flame launcher without the backpack, which is the reserve unit, which looks kind of weird without the hose on it. But I thought, that's the reserve and flame launcher cannon is why I bought this thing. So after getting that first head put together, I did not realize that that head was not going to work, because the head I put together is the one you use with the reserve flame launcher pack. Okay, but the thing is, I wanted the other head that you use without the flame launcher pack. I liked it better. My choice, I guess. Anybody's choice, whichever one they want to use. So that required the dreaded word, modifications. I eventually did get it modified down to where I could use my pick of the 2 on the mech. Severe modifications. I'm working on the flame launcher there. Oh, by the way, well, apparently somewhere along through there I breezed through the building of the Veil. But one of the things I did after I decided on in the building process was the Veil or shield and the flame launcher. I decided I wanted those white. So, and I happen to have a can of spray paint that I could use to get that white. Now here's the other problem. It's winter time, and wintertime sucks when it comes to spray painting. You can't spray paint inside unless you've got a dedicated booth for spray painting, which I do not. So I had to wait until the conditions were favorable enough for me to get out and paint the 2 pieces that I wanted, which was just the Veil and the flame launcher, and to get a decent coat on it. I did. The flame launcher turned out great. I got nearly I think 2 or 3 coats on that, and it turned out beautiful. The Veil, I only applied about 2 coats to it, so it worked out okay. But because, like I said, I'm going for battlefield effects, so that meant it did not have to be absolutely super beautiful. Oop, there I am working on the flame launcher pack. This thing was so big. It's like almost the size of the mech itself. And I was just really apprehensive as to just how well it was going to go together and put on the mech itself to be able for it to stand. I mean, it will work, but my other challenge came to the point to where when I actually have to attach it to the mech. Now, that piece is designed as a multi-purpose thing where you can connect it, display it with it, or you can disconnect it, display it without it. I don't know actually how many people put these things together and then end up taking them apart for another display. They're very brave. They have my total admiration that they can actually build it to the point to where they can take it apart without stuff breaking, falling off, or just overhandling the piece. Because one of the things I have noticed that, and I guess it might be true with any of these models, they are extremely delicate pieces. It's a display piece. You just don't. It's not a toy. You don't play with it, and I really don't think anybody that puts one together does. That's like the cannon on this thing. It's an adjustable cannon. You can slide it out about 3 or 4 times. Well, I'm sorry, about 2 times the length of the actual barrel, if you put enough of the piping on it to be able to do that. But it's very difficult. You have to go in and sand the inside of the piece where the barrel goes to make it function like that smoothly. I did not, so mine does not move smoothly. Also, in the process of setting it up for spray painting, I ended up breaking off a tab and having to do some more modifications to get the end of that chrome part of the barrel stuck back on there. I had some problems with this one, but I managed to fight my way through them. One of the other hindrances I ran into was, you will see this here, I'm sure, momentarily if it's not moving like at hyperlight speed. On the end of the butt of the gun, there is a little nub that the feeder hose connects to. That nub is not big enough to hold the feeder hose connected to it when you start having to adjust your model and actually put the gun in the wrist socket. Oh, and that was another thing I found out. The hand will not hold the gun. So many things it would be nice to be able to read in Japanese to know these things. The hand has to be glued to the hand grip on the gun in order for it to stay in the wrist socket. So there you go. So once I figured that out, we were good. But so you're saying glue, just glue the feeder hose on there. Well, tried that 2 times, but the hose is made out of a material that does not accept model glue. It just pops right off. So eventually what had to be done was I had to cut the nub off, take my hand drill piece, drill out a hole into the bottom of it, and then insert a piece of model tree in there to hold it in place. Obviously I glued it up in there, then after the glue set, cut it off to the length I needed to actually hold the feeder hose in place. No glue necessary for either end. There I am. There you can see that fire reserve unit is completely built, and I don't know what I'm working on there. Oh, I'm working on the bottom half? No. Let's see. Oh, I'm working on the part where the shoulder attachments go. And there was this little set of wings that came with it that I didn't understand why they came with it. They showed it in both sets, part of the instructions, but really you cannot have those in place and get the reserve pack onto the torso part of the back. They were just in the way, so I eventually dumped them. They were just so annoying, so I just left them off. There the model is actually slowly coming together, and I wish I had worked on my camera angle a little bit, because it's going to be slightly off. It needed to be tilted up just a little bit more, but you learn as you go when you do this kind of stuff. Also, my waist socket was not as tight of a fit as I would have liked because the legs kept falling off. You see, I'm doing the full experimentation thing to get everything together, see how it's going to stand and work, and working on getting that flame launcher in place. But that was, there I go. I'm drilling out the end. I just briefly caught a glimpse of it there. And back into the new segment. Yep. I've cut it off, got it in place, hands glued in place, and working it, setting it up. There it is. Look at that. I had this set for 1 frame per second, but it was still so long. There we go. This next part, when it comes up, is going to be after I apply decals. The decals did not take very long to do, but I saw no point in leaving them in there. Oh, look at that. There we go. And as you can see, there's the part I skipped out. This part right, the last part you're looking at here is me applying battle damage. Well, like cleaning up the shield first to bring out those little detailed areas that I capillaried with the wash. And now I'm going into the mud and dirt, battle damage of the mech itself. Made it really, really nasty because this dude's been on the battlefield. He's been fighting. I'm kind of proud of the shield. Right there you see me applying the bullet holes to the shield in the front where he got strafed by a big machine gun of some kind. And there was some scarring that I did because I figured he's carrying 2 swords, so the other mechs he might fight might actually have swords, and he blocked a few sword shots. Oh, there we went into hyper speed again. A couple of segments apparently I missed speeding up. But hey, thanks for watching this. You're getting real close to the end. If you managed to last this long, you have done very well. And I was very proud of this whenever I finished it. It's might not meet a lot of people's expectations, but I thought it turned out fairly decent for me. Coming into the end part here, there's going to be some photos that I took with a good camera to show off some of the battle damage in detail. And hey, thanks for watching the video. Here come the photos. I'm not sure how long these are displaying, but there they are. They're going to be big on the screen, so I had quite an entertaining time building this one. So if you enjoyed it, I hope you did, and hopefully my next one will not be nowhere near this long.